Here's the issue. You're gonna have libraries start on page 68. They had a system, I'm sorry, yeah, page 68 in your budget.
It's not terrible.
Kind of discuss what happened, and that way we can try to, with these spreadsheets, clear up part of the confusion, because it's gonna be very confusing. The libraries were individual, they were put into a system, and now they're being broken back apart, so when you had a system library, you actually had system costs that were broken back apart. So when you start comparing these in totality, they're gonna be very difficult unless you compare the library's total, but we can show you how to compare them. This sheet right here, that 1,953,517 is all salaries and benefits for the libraries last year. The county commission came in and approved to give them salary scale adjustments of $84,630. That's the gross minus the benefits they show. There's, the 6% cost of living would be $59,074 if it gets approved. In addition to that, the libraries have asked for $55,251 to come to their new rate. That's what I'm saying, there is a $55,000 worth of additional on top of cost of living in there. So that's the 5-mile summary. Let's go to the general fund summary. Let's show them the library's total cost, and they can go back individual because it's going to be very hard to follow.
Yeah.
The libraries from this year to last year, they're asking for $301,806 more, or a 12.2% increase. And then now I would recommend going in by item by item and by salary sheet to salary, but as you can look, there is some fair amount of increases in there.
What we, as far as the non-salaried line items, we did ask for 4%. The cost of inflation right now, as of May 1st, was 4.98. When we submitted our budgets, it was 6%, and we asked for a 4% increase across the board for non-salaried line items. The library system budget had a budget of about $207,000 that was eliminated the first quarter of this year by the library board. So those funds are now being transferred back to the libraries because that's where they came from when the library system was created. It took money away from all the libraries and put it in the library system account. So that money we want to get back to the libraries. And that's not only for salaries, but it's also for non-salary. So the sheet that I sent out to you, or passed out to you, will detail some of those changes as far as for the salary line items. When we got our worksheets back, it had a 6% increase in it for COLA, so that what was in there. And then there also was our note taker for our board meetings that they get paid $100 per time. That was being paid out of the library system. That has now been added to Hendersonsville line item of $600. So that's where that'll get paid from now on. Non-salary line items, as I said, we've asked for the 4%, but the money that came from the library system that had taken money from the libraries, it's broken down here for you by how much money was given back to each individual library. Also, IT was paying a lot of our invoices, IT related, like our Comcast bill. They were paying our operating system bill for TLC. They were also paying our Envisionware or Cybrarian, depending on which library you're talking about. They had taken that money from the libraries 2 years ago. That money is now supposed to come back to the libraries, and that is what is all detailed down here in this bottom chart. So as you're looking at each individual library, and you're going from what the budget was in 2003, or 2023, to the fiscal year now that we're talking about, there is a substantial increase. And it's because a lot of that money from the library system is now given back. Plus what we're asking for is the 4% for non-salaried items.
So when you say increase, to me, do you mean it's more just like it's just transferred over, not
There's increases too.
It's
There's 4% in the salary sheet. There's 55,000 of more salaries in addition to that also.
Okay, so this is like
Yeah,
true. This is true in like
Yes.
increases over what?
Right.
Once you dissolve the library system,
So-
those salary positions that got absorbed back to the library, this is on top of that?
So
Okay.
it looks to me like, here's the math I'm coming up with. We gained $207,000 by
By dissolving it.
by dissolving the system-wide. and you're adding 263, so it's a net of, 55,000, $56,000.
You're talking about the whole library system, though. Go back to the summary page, Rick. It's like 300,000, and maybe with the cost of living and everything. We got a summary pretty cool today.
Oh, actually, no, you're right. It's-
12% right there.
it's-
Yeah.
What's the total dollar difference? So add up
301,806.
301,000 difference?
Like more than,
Yeah, but that's also including their cost of living at 4%.
So,
Most of that is cost of living of the 4% that we're asking for non-salaried items.
so is that 301 minus 207, or is that 301 after the
The
207?
301's total.
So it's,
Totality.
so, but then subtract out the 207, so it's 100.
You wouldn't really subtract that out, this is included in there. This last year included your system and everything, right there. That's this year with everything, so it's 301,000 or 12% more than last year. Basically, last year you had system and the libraries. This year you had the 5
So
libraries.
pretend they're both one big pot. What's the difference?
That's it, right, 301,806.
that's the increase over last
It's
year.
12.2%.
Okay.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, there's.
That's a lot.
Now, one thing, there is some IT money moved back, but we do need to get the original sheet from IT, because you have the original sheet from IT, I don't believe it was quite that much money.
The sheet that IT gave me, it was.
Was it 51? I can't remember exactly what it was. So it
The
was
sheet that
exactly
they
50.
gave me, and they broke it down by library, and these were the total.
So this is what they're
library.
spending now. Originally, there was about 30 moved, but they may be spending.
So I'm looking at the big numbers here.
Well, the things you gotta remember, IT showed negative 77, so 51,638 of that increase is actually redistributed from IT. For lines and matching, and
So then we're down to 250.
so you're down to 250. And part of, and we can show you how much the cost of living is.
Well,
If you click on the.
Here's the big one though. So the librarians in the Hendersonville Library, that's 116, and then that's 116 difference, and the librarians in the, I guess part-time personnel in Gallatin is 20,000. So there's 135,000 of it right there.
Let's go through a couple things. Here's a couple things that will help us. $84,630 plus there's some benefits, so that was given to them mid-year by the county commission for salary costs. So if you take the 200, or what was it, about 300,000, then you need to minus about 90 off for that, and then minus 51,638 that was redistributed from the IT, that's about 130. So that puts you, what, about $170,000?
Yep.
59 plus benefits is cost of living. This is additional part-time and raises they're asking for here. That is on those yellow columns, that's those amounts they're asking for in addition. And then if you go down their line items, it's gonna be hard to tell which ones are up and down because they move.
Yeah, it's hard to,
So I think maybe what you need to do on this one is visit the library in totality of what their increases are. In other words, look at these yellow lines and see if you're willing to fund those. There's 55, plus benefits, probably about 60. There's 80, and then there's 68, and another 60 here. That gets you what, 120, 200 is free to look at, and the other hundreds somewhere in your non-salary line items.
I do have one question.
There's about 100,000 somewhere else increases.
Well, I have just on the Hendersonville, we clearly added personnel there, which I understood we may add one because we were removing from the central, but like, what's the uptick there from the $116,000 difference on librarians for Hendersonville?
It was about 98,000 prior to any COLA increases.
Okay.
And those were for positions that were taken away from the library when the system was created.
So
One
you're,
position was moved from Gallatin to Hendersonville mid-year this year.
okay.
Plus
That's
the
why
ones
Gallatin
that were
is-
added back after the system was dissolved.
So, okay, so one's coming, one is coming from Gallatin, one's coming laterally from Gallatin, one's coming down from the,
Two.
Two
Two
from the system.
are coming
Two
down from the system.
And one goes into Westmoreland from the system, so everything in these yellow columns are additional increases on top of last year.
Yeah, ask that question.
Anything that's in the yellow column on this salary sheet is,
After all of the news, I demand it.
Can why is the director position in Hendersonville paid more than the other 4 director positions?
Because Hendersonville does over 50% of the volume of all the libraries put together. They're managing the largest building and the largest staff.
And so Gallatin's at 51, so I guess it's closer.
Yeah, all of the others are 51.
Right.
So
So,
if we're gonna make a percentage increase based on that, shouldn't they all have a percentage increase based on?
well, I mean, the
They
argument,
were,
I mean,
they were, originally when the sheets came back, it was 6%. When you put it in the agenda, somehow it got reduced to 4.
but your argument is the one is paid 10%
Yeah.
more because they handle 50% more volume.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the agenda, but basically you all's request.
Yes,
Okay.
it was 4.
I mean,
But
that's
if everybody else is
I
gonna
get
get
it.
6, I would ask that we be treated alike.
I'm not saying it's necessary, I mean,
But-
there's arguments both sides, but.
I was gonna ask you my next question, I forget what it was now.
No, he had asked about,
Okay.
I figured, I asked about where those new salary positions were coming from, got that, and he was asking about the
The salary survey
difference.
last year, and this is, I think, Mark's question, the salary survey last year actually had the Hendersonville Library at a higher level than the other ones, and I think Gallatin, was Gallatin also? Last year, when they did the salary survey, Gallatin and Hendersonville was on a higher level than the other libraries.
But that never got approved for Gallatin.
For Gallatin, we never,
Got it.
well, they all did get approved. The issue was, is the, one,
You do
there
more
was a
business.
difference in the amount of time, and then also,
Replacing the
the,
director
I guess,
too.
head
There
library
would
at
be
the time.
an
redistributed all
argument
you
that
guys.
there's inexperience.
That's really what happened. It was in April.
How
You know,
much more
April
does
came by, they told her
Gallatin
she
do
could
than
do what
West
she
Moreland?
wanted.
That's my whole point. I mean, somebody's gotta be more, and somebody's.
Well,
gotta be
that was
less.
what they were just saying, was that Gallatin was requested for more, and then it didn't get approved.
Well,
so.
what happened was the salary survey was funded that way. The library at the time had April, which was the executive director, so April and the chairman of the board came and made a request to the budget committee, as long as the amounts were the same, that they would be allowed to do with that raise basically as they needed to, which was two things: equalize salaries the way they thought was correct, and also give raises to part-time. Because across the whole county, no part-times were included in the salary survey, because the thought process is moving from a full to part-time over time, you would get that benefit, but otherwise no.
Libraries have probably at least 50% or more of their staff is all part-time.
So basically what happened was the executive director, with the board at the time, came by and redistributed those funds, or otherwise the Hendersonville and Gallatin directors would be making significantly closer to the same pay level. So she redirected based on approval from the budget committee.
Okay.
Upon the request of the board also, the chairman at the time. Unless I'm mistaken, do you remember that correct?
But an adjustment to Gallatin to even those up is not in this budget.
No,
Okay.
the 4 libraries are staying at the old rate of 49,298 plus their, whatever is their COLA for
So
this year.
unlike most of them, I feel like most of these, we've never been able to tease out the changes based on a few big ticket items. This one, the changes are like
Your big
hard to
changes,
figure out.
well, your big change, if you go down the yellow on the salary sheet,
Yeah.
every one of those are additional increases. That's that 55,000, I pointed out earlier, plus benefit. That's the first one you can find. We can identify about half of what the increases are. The other ones have to be that salary line, or non-salary line. Because we go into that 300, we find 51 here, about 90 that was mid-year adjusted, and about 60 for these additional requests. So that leaves you about another 100 that have to be spread within these non-salary line items. And you said you went by and just increased all lines by 40%, which is generally not like what the county does. And then the other one is they came back and,
Yeah, that's what's coming. That's
Pat, the
what's-
other one,
I
the other one,
got
she
it.
said they just went by and increased all the lines.
Oh, yeah, that's where this is all.
Starbucks, the money in there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All righty. So, we're not really doing much of a workshop today, I don't think. I think we're
Do
planning
you want to
on.
look at self-insurance fund? Work on liability, workers' comp, and back to
I mean, we're gonna be here about 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, so how do we, what do we want to pick off today?
I don't wanna be here till midnight tomorrow night.
Meeting starts in the morning.
8:30 tomorrow?
Why don't we look at the self-insurance funds and just see if you
Yeah,
guys
that's a good
concur with
idea.
my
Let's pick that off.
recommendation to change those.
Yeah, we can do it today, it's only 3.
Yeah, let's pick this off.
It says workshop in the
Yeah,
budget.
no, let's do it. Let's pick it off.
You want to grab something you haven't looked at all, self-insurance funds?
Yeah, let's do that. Because there was something else I want to work on, but it probably makes sense to wait till tomorrow.
Well, we can start on whatever, it's the chairman's, so if you'd rather start on something else. Would you want me to start on something different?
No, I want that, we're gonna hold
Let's
off on
describe, this is one that we all talk about, it's our self-insurance summary. This is our self-insurance fund, it's made up of 3 things. We're self-insured on our health insurance, We're self-insured on our dental, and the other one we call OJI liability or dental. OJI stands for on-the-job injury, which is your, basically, workers' comp. These are all of them combined, but you need to look at them individually. First, let's just go to the health summary. Go on down. These are actuarially determined and based on the census. If you look, my projection is that fund balance is going to change or equities by $7,000. This includes a 1% premium increase, which is built across your whole budget, and which is a very reasonable increase. Unless you're just not wanting to fund 1% of the actuarial, but I recommend funding.
That's fine.
The next one.
I'm
The one
serious
that I
about
think,
that one.
dental, we're actually overfunded, but it's such a small premium, and it's been that way a couple of years, just like to eventually let it bleed off. I'm estimating we'll pick up another $83,000. Adjusting these premiums to pick up $83,000 across your budget, I don't think is really worth their effort. Now, this is the one I think we needed to look at. Oh, this is the on-the-job injury. If you look at the cost frame, the schools have fallen back off. So the cost started falling back off. I believe they left in the end of 2021 to 21-22. If you look, there's a small drop off because we had a lot of the runoff claims. This year, we're estimating somewhere in there because of runoff claims. This is the estimate we were sent from risk management / HR. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, why'd they come up so much?
Well, I talked to HR, they sent them an email, and they said because certain line items were over, they thought it was prudent to increase it, but my issue is you move between the line items. And my other issue is, just like I was talking to Eric earlier, when the schools dropped off, they've got runoff claims from schools. They're gonna have it for a couple of years to pay, but they're gonna get
But they're gonna keep getting
smaller and smaller. At the same time, our cost was to growth and inflation is gonna grow, but the runoffs are probably gonna run at the same speed or faster. So I would dare say, you're gonna be looking somewhere down into here. So my
Yeah.
thought process is, I think we should go back and basically budget really close to that right there. And not put any
1.92, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And in the worst case scenario, if we do miss it and
Yeah.
say something does go bad, you still have
That's fine.
a strong reserve to pick those up.
I think I agree. with
So let's
that.
go over here, Bethany, and let's make that.
Can we just wait, do you need a vote on that? Or can you just budget that?
No, we're just gonna get, right now, Jen's gonna make notes of everything we're gonna
Okay.
change. So what we'll do is you'll make a whole list of notes, you'll get them right now.
Let's go. We're gonna
At the end of
stay
tomorrow,
2022.
we can change it now the way you can see. like
Let's
five-
do it.
Yeah, let's
Let's
do
go ahead
that.
and change it now.
Because I want to, because when we
It's a
do this,
workshop.
I also want to, here's the other thing I want to pick off that I think we can do today, and that's, we can, once we're done with this, let's go back and revisit the options that we have for Toby. Because I think we can do
Go ahead,
that
balance
today
highway.
too. I think we can balance that today.
And I think you need to look at the ARPA too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We pick our path there, and we can do, if we get those two things done today, it's a lot.
We hit highway, ARPA, and self, the self-insurance will pay.
That works.
Leave all these alone because this is the salaries, they'll self-adjust or whichever. The trustees commission, the trustee figured out she wasn't charging, it needs to stay.
This is consulting.
Right. So what I would do, Bethany, is I would, because what do we need to do now? About 205,000, take those claims, all these, back to last year's first and see how close. Let's copy this, let's go over to that real quick. And I know we may have to adjust between them, but, yeah, and the attorney's fees. See how close that gets us right off. And then we'll go back, go 55,000, come in here and take 55,000 off that one right there. 55,380.
160.
Yeah, take the 55,280 off that one. And then that should balance that fund back to last year. And then right now, that'll get rid of the 8% necessity over in the general
Yeah.
fund and the highway
Okay.
fund. Let's go over here and click, and it should show that thing. A small uptick, so we should be good. Yeah, we should be fine on that fund right there. Go up to the revenue, make sure I didn't add anything. Make sure my revenue is the same. Same. Yeah, what is that? Yeah, is it actually changed or just, oh, there you go. Click on these, Beth, I think we need to change them. Yeah, those changes back to last year, take those increases off. Okay, now go to your summary, we should be in pretty good shape. Your 43,000 uptick, that's all to do with increases in your interest earnings, which may or may not stay there because of the funds. Interest earnings are much higher, so I think that's where you'd want to be showing a small increase.
I mean, we may get a decrease. I mean, it's been.
No, I mean, the funds is actually.
Oh, I see. I got you.
I would leave the same amount of funding in there, I wouldn't decrease funding in like.
No, I'm not saying, but I mean, once we get to actuals, you may see.
Yeah, if we end up during the year and it ends up running really heavy, we'll go back in May or
Yeah,
June and
that's
amend
fine.
it, but it'll just come out of these reserve amounts. And if you look, the reserves are much better than they used to be.
Where did we get all that money for the reserves?
Over many years, we've been running this program for years and years and years, so they build reserves over the year. The reserves are supposed to be what's reasonable for your claims, and we feel that's what's reasonable for potential claims.
20 million?
Oh, no, on this one, it's only got.
Well, we were looking at some of those previous pages,
Oh, over here, go across and all.
and I saw numbers in the.
Oh, yeah, go to the summary for the self-insurance, and I'll go through that with you.
Yeah.
Go to the summary for all the self-insurance.
I mean, that's just good budgeting.
He was seeing the summary for the self-insurance.
Gotta give it to them.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is made up of a couple things, come on there. This is the runoff catastrophic for your health insurance fund.
Uh-huh.
That's for your dental for all the employees, and then that's projected for your cash.
And we just accumulated that over
Over
the year.
time, and the thing on this, you don't know how these claims are gonna go one way or the other. If you look at, what we did was back
Use the hospital fund.
several years ago, we instituted, I guess the word is a wellness plan. When we did, everybody's cost, has been going up for health. Ours actually significantly went down that year. So there's a couple of years right after we did the wellness plan, we accumulated quite a bit of reserves. But the recommendation after that, we've been trying to keep it flat, and we've been trying to match actuarials with expense and keep a strong reserve in here. Because you don't know what's really gonna happen, because there's unlimited on your health now. It used to be limited to $1 million, that no longer exists.
That wellness plan was non-smokers.
Non-smokers, your BMI, your cholesterol,
Yeah.
When we instituted that thing, and then we had a preferred and a non-preferred, when we did that, our cost suddenly dropped out the bottom. And we thought it was gonna take several years, we changed, it dropped out the bottom. So we started picking up, before that, we had huge deficits. The county commission came here one time and funded $6 million worth of deficits out of this fund. So my thing is, I would recommend to keep trying to budget that flat like you're doing, unless that's really excessive, because you don't know which way it's going.
No, I.
And at one time, they were in a
Right.
strong deficit, and the county took, I think it was out of the hospital reserves and the general fund.
Yeah.
Well, 3 was out of hospital reserves, 3 was out of unassigned, we put $6 million over it about 4 years ago. And when I got here, Ms. Browning's first thing I asked her for problems, she informed me we had a sinking ship on the health insurance fund, and about a week after I was out here, I figured out it was much worse than I thought, because of.
I mean, to be fair, and there are all sorts of things that we're having to fix from the previous two commissions, but this is one thing it looks like they fixed.
Yeah, they
I
fixed
mean,
it.
it looks like they did.
Except with the cost of healthcare going up the way it has in the last 2 years.
It's 1% this year.
Is that all it was?
And the year before was 8, and
Well-
they wanted it a larger, but the actual was based on their group of business. And there was a big increase for COVID, which I thought was temporary, so last year I told them we probably need to look and fund it 2% less. Well, this year it comes up going 1% more, so we were corrected for the fund last year. So this year's actuarial, when you add in, the census says it's 1% increase from last year. And I think the 1% is probably heavy. But yeah, this fund's run quite well, working. This was actually in trouble too, because they started regularly increasing premiums. But I don't recommend this year, because the way I'm looking at the trend, we're probably funded. I think when the schools dropped out, they dropped more cost than they did revenue, so we'll see. So the other reason I didn't want it to decrease those, we'll see if that's true. So next year, we may be asking for 8% for this, but I don't think it's necessary this year.
So if we, and I'm not sure, I'm just trying to use the time to solve problems here. Are we good on this?
I think this one's done unless you want to change something.
I don't,
No.
okay. So let's do Toby.
Do you want to look at the ARPA first, or Toby?
I think we do, I know the one, I know that.
Well, the ARPA's already negative, so if you add $1 million in, that's going to be kind of.
Well, I know, but I mean, let's just talk about that one, and then we can go to, because ARPA is gonna be, that's a thing. Like, that's a bear. If we
So
want-
your first option would be, we just come in here to make Toby work and cut $1.5 million off of that balance. And what
That's going from 50 road miles to 40 road
To
miles.
40.
It'd be about 38. We
So
did-
move.
well, and then you got one or two choices. You can add 98% of state aid there and over there and get back, what, half of those, or no, a third of those, or you can fund part of it ARPA, that's your.
I think, this is my opinion here, I think we go with ARPA, and I'm telling, here's why. We could, if we
And
can
keep it at 50 miles?
keep it at, somewhere between there, I mean, and here's why, mix is only getting more expensive.
Well, true.
I mean, so we, you know, we gotta burn, like, once you may wanna hold off, and I see why you wanted to do ARPA first, but like, once we look at like, what we, you know, is up there for ARPA right now, like, this is to me a no-brainer. Like, put that up there, I would put, you know, maybe 1 million from ARPA, 500,000, I would keep him at 50 miles, or thereabout, 1 million from ARPA, additional from where he currently is, and then 500,000 additional from where he currently is from the state funds, and then he gets the 50.
Do we wanna do that? I can go ahead and make it happen in about 5
Do y'all get where I'm coming at right there?
How much have we already given him for asphalt
Do
this
you
year?
wanna watch this? Let's see if
1.3.
this works.
1.3.
Come over here, let's
We
see if
already
this
gave
works.
them.
Go over to revenues, add 500,000 here today.
The problem is asphalt's gone up 60% in 2 years.
Yeah, and it's just gonna keep going
I'm
up.
saying-
And that's the
See, this
And when
is
he
what you
priced
want.
that, it was 125,000 a mile,
I know.
and it's not now.
Right.
2 years ago, it was like $1.9 million.
No, I get it.
Now it's like,
7.98 is
it's,
that number, minus 500
What
off
is
of
in
that.
that?
Or minus 1.5 off of that one.
He gave you this, look at this guy.
oh, yeah, it's got your prices, it's
Get in,
ridiculous.
or okay.
Something
Now,
Miss
go
Judy
over here
had
to
a problem.
summary.
It was just,
Is that one, that's one,
in 21, it doubled.
Yeah, highway summary.
Price of
If
asphalt
we
doubled.
don't start drilling, this is not gonna get any better.
Okay, here you go, 772, 126.
I agree. It's part of what our tax
boom.
base goes for roads.
What we did, took 1.5 out of hot mix.
It's one thing
Had a regular
everybody
hot
uses.
mix.
Oh, here, just hear this out.
Here's what we did, we took 1.5 million out of regular hot mix, added 500,000 state aid, added 0.98% of that to the state aid hot mix. It'll balance its budget, then go over here to, now go over here to the, go over here to the general fund of the ARPA bid.
So here's what
We're gonna have, we're gonna have
Hold
to
on,
make
let
the
her-
ARPA, but we won't miss
Go
it.
ahead.
I can't listen to
Go
it
ahead,
at
go
the same
ahead.
time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, go over here to the ARPA appropriation bill.
Subtracted that off, increased the state aid revenue, $100,000.
And the 0.98% of the state aid hot mix. Now go over here to the appropriation in your general fund for ARPA, and add in $1 million for highway again, for next year, and then add that schedule.
for your
Because you're already over, we need to see how much you will be over.
So let me explain this real quick, just so it's super simple in here for the record. 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is local, bucket 2 is ARPA, bucket 3 is state. This state bucket can only be used to do roads that touch state. ARPA can be done to use anything, this can be done to use anything, but this does 2
Maintenance
things.
of
And it makes that $700,000 negative. So we needed to take 1.5 million from here. We got 2 options. We either reduce down from 50 miles, or we take from this bucket and split it up between these 2. So what I'm suggesting doing, 500,000 from this bucket, 1 million from this bucket.
We make
Keep
them
him at
whole,
Make him whole.
and we don't increase
And
maintenance
we
of
don't
effort.
increase maintenance of effort.
And we get 50 miles of road.
And we get 50 miles of road this year.
And there's a few things I think you need to straighten up on Toby's salaries to full-time before.
Well, yes, we do.
I'll
but-
take you about 5 to 10 minutes here if you want to go and grab it or less.
Yeah, well, first off, does everybody get what we're doing here?
I
Does that
get
make
it now.
sense?
It's balanced now, but you want to
Yeah.
straighten up those fuel salary things.
Well, I just want to make sure where there's like, I don't want to be a dictator here. Does
So
this-
that's not gonna be repeatable.
No, it won't be.
No, it's one
But we're,
time.
we're
We're
assuming.
fixing a problem this year.
Right,
Yes.
because, I mean, and we're doing it because we're assuming it's only gonna get more expensive next year.
Yeah.
So like, you know,
Let's use it
and
while
that
we got
ARPA
it.
funds are gonna die.
Yeah, okay, and what bucket is the pink?
There is no, what,
Well-
oh, that's a
That's
totally
for
separate thing.
equipment. That's
No,
totally for
you're
equipment.
talking about something totally different, which we'll bring up tomorrow. That's a totally separate bucket, totally separate thing. That's the exit 8 stuff.
Do we want to
Oh,
go in
that's
and
a
get rid
totally
of those
separate
2
thing.
full-time positions and move some back to temporary that we discussed? And also, there's some, in their benefit lines, they miscalculated their social security Medicare. Let me explain that. They took their gross salary and added social security Medicare to it. Your social security Medicare is only applicable to your taxable gross salary, which means you take your gross and minus all of your health insurance premiums that you pay. Our calculation does that, so there's all this extra social security Medicare in it. You want us to remove those and straighten them up? It'll take like 5 minutes if you want those out.
Yeah.
So go over there.
Yeah,
Beth,
there's 2 positions.
Leave the health.
Yeah,
but
just
get rid of the-
strike 'em.
get
Strike
rid of
those
that.
2 positions that
Get
they
rid of
messed
this,
up
Yeah.
that. You're gonna leave that and that because they may have changes. Get rid of the TCRS because it can actually be short. I leave the health in case they do have changes. Get rid of the legal, get rid of the life. They don't need to get rid of the negative TCRS because you're gonna be short. And then the social security, you may get rid of those, because those are on bank, and that should put you pretty close. Now go and find those 2 full-time truck drivers.
Yeah, those need to be eliminated.
Eliminate those and then find out what their total is and add that back to.
Yeah.
Seasonal.
Seasonal, yes, for the same amount. So what are they, 38, 480 twice, what's that total, pull that total there.
76,960.
Is that what you want here? And seasonal truck drivers?
Yeah, that's what the total is.
Just,
Well, it'll be that, 76,960 added to that and then delete that bill.
Well, yeah, just,
No,
No, not
add to
twice.
what's already there. Hit escape, man.
what,
Okay, take the 33, it's already there, what is
It
that?
ain't 33 there, it's a negative.
you're just making it whole.
No, copy, pay special, that to 0. Make that 37,041 constant real quick.
It just needs to be positive 37.41, right?
Well, copy, pay
it'll
special.
actually 76.
Yeah, I'm gonna add
that.
Copy, make, no,
It'll be a
make that no
positive
one.
line.
But those are seasonal
Copy,
employees, so
that's
that's not, that's 2 people for part-time for 37, right? That's what that is.
Yeah.
If he added those 2 people, so you're not doubling, that'd be 4
No,
seasonal
no,
employees.
no.
You don't wanna do 70,000, that'd
Now,
be
it-
4
it's-
seasonal.
No, yeah, it'll
What
only be
is
like
it?
30 something.
Correct, it needs, that's, yeah, that's what I'm making.
What's that total right
She was
there?
putting 70 something up there, but no.
Add 76,960 to that negative.
There you go,
Yeah.
that's right.
Then
It'll come
delete
out.
those and delete all the benefits.
There you go, there's your season.
Okay, so,
Delete and delete the S to get rid of all these, and delete those health and dental.
can you just delete the
One
rows?
It should take care of
Okay,
it.
thanks for that.
Yeah, okay, good.
Now go hit Toby's summary sheet and see what it looks like. You should look at what we did.
And then can we also look at capital, total capital, see how much we burned off there?
Yeah, you guys have a whole bunch of these we looked at over there.
Yeah, but I mean, we should have just burned off 1.5 million, right? Well, not in capital, because that would have been for just for.
Yeah, there's a
towing.
whole bunch of.
Yeah, you're
places
right.
from EMS and all of the play. But you can go through those today. And then the
I don't
mayor
know that
should
we'll
really
have
go
time
through
for
his
that.
capital if you want to.
And I want to get through everybody to just, I don't know if we want to do that one today.
We could actually, now Toby looks like that, that's probably about where you want
Let's
it
get
to
to
go.
there. No, capital.
That's
Well,
probably
we
about
do our-
what you want right for day 23.
That's it.
We got tons of adjustments coming down in balance.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now, so we're above that 765 or whatever. the
Okay.
So you're
state-
more than 112.
So we solved this
We're
problem.
above what the comptroller wants us
What
to
does that
have.
represent, that 820?
I know, that was in that letter.
It needed to be above
So let's make these,
750,
take these colors away, Beth, and no
We need to
longer
go
flat.
112 buffer.
So,
Is that per
Take away
month?
the pink and highway
For
done.
the year.
So you're
Yeah,
finished with
this is-
highway,
this is
self
12,
insurance.
Yes, that's
Basically, you need an extra month.
You need an extra month buffer, I mean, you can.
Okay.
You guys wanna go ahead and say you're fine with drug control, cause it's a pass-through fund.
if it's not costing us anything, yeah.
So the only things you're really gonna have left in there, courthouse and jail, do you wanna look at that? for
Well, wait,
jobs as
but
well?
on drug control, was there a, refresh me on this, was there any salary?
No,
Nothing.
click it.
Just the
Okay.
extra one that the sheriff does.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's for drug, buys, sales, things to get rid of drug control, even drug dogs, if they wanted to buy them.
That's not any,
No salaries, it all comes from
Just passing
like
through.
fines, fees, forfeitures, and seizures.
we're just managing the state fed money.
Yeah, it's just
Another big one, you wanna look at debt service.
Let's do,
It's really got no.
because I think there's some things we're gonna wanna talk to on,
You wanna look at the school's MOE, where you're at on it, on the red taxes.
do we wanna do that or do we wanna do ARPA?
David, can I circle back just 1 second? I know this is probably gonna sound stupid. Is a drug dog considered, I'm not talking about for benefits, but is it considered an employee?
No, but it is considered an expensive asset, Bill.
Okay.
We never considered them an employee, no.
No,
No, I
Well, I
mean, no,
mean,
but
you
there is a valid
retirements and
question.
stuff for them.
It is a valid question, I mean, they gotta be.
Here's your bigger question that we dealt with several years ago, and when your drug dog person takes care of their drug dog, they should be paid. That's something we
Yeah,
usually does
I
involve
mean-
employment. So if you're going home and taking care of the dog.
It's
they
just like
should-
putting gas in the car,
Yeah.
in your service car.
But you're making
You
that.
may
part
love the
of
dog or
salary.
like the dog, but you're really taking care of the
Yeah.
animal, the bunch of drugs.
That's a valid
So they
question.
get paid for that,
It
that's
is.
a good question, because we don't treat them, I understand what you're saying, but we don't treat them in that.
So let's
fashion.
go ahead.
But we do.
Yeah,
think
I know you don't do health insurance or anything like that. I'm just
You're talking about as
asking.
far as insuring them, if you're what they're gonna
Right.
do when they get old and they can't do it.
Right.
Because this was.
What you gonna do if they?
I'm not ready for sure.
Yeah.
You know, that's something.
Well, we can, I mean, because we may have to do Because if we do debt service, we may have to come back to it after tomorrow,
We're gonna take more
right? So
funds out, but
let's
it's
just,
positive.
yeah, let's just.
Courthouse and jail, and the mayor's here, you want us to go ahead and do it, get it out of the way.
Look, let's do ARPA. Let's do ARPA.
Bethany, go over to,
I'm with you.
they've got the ARPA schedule in front of
Let's
us.
put this to
Basically,
bed.
my
And
term
let's pull it,
into
it's changed by $1 million, but let's go over to the general fund. And I'll go through a couple of things that kind of made, we'll go through what's in the.
Where is my ARPA?
And it's on page.
Where's my
This
ARPA?
question, do we need to be voting on each one of these when we're doing what we're doing
If
right
you
now?
talk about now, then you're gonna vote on tomorrow. Here's the flip.
Just
bill.
one
As
big
one,
vote.
we're just,
This
okay.
sheet's gonna sit here just like you guys got it, so it's an individual vote on it.
Is that the article?
And then what we also
I
want you
feel
guys to
free.
go ahead and publish it, and then adjust any actuals until actually approve, approve the budget.
But we'll make the motion to approve it, approve all those things.
Yeah, but we still want to change current year estimates for things that change. There's fund balance.
Well, we've suspended the rules right now, so.
Yeah, no, we're just talking, it's fine.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll make sure we get that, because we've got to publish this budget at least 10 days before you approve it as a county commission, as a commission. What page is that? I don't see it. In the budget, there's two things, there's a sheet passed out, and then there's the main ARPA. And the main ARPA actually starts on page 80 of your budget. And this number's gonna change, because we just added $1 million, but if Bethany can pop on the screen, and I'll point out a couple of things, and I'll point one out once, but it's very important. Are we on the ARPA there? Okay. A couple of things, and it's actually, let's go over to the ARPA sheet first, because it's probably got some things that are looking at that $10 million, we've got some issues over there. Let's get the one that gives me the most detail. This is the sheet you got, and it's changed by the $1 million. This is the total ARPA funds you've got. Within that 37 million, 10 million of it's called revenue replacement, which has a lot less restrictions. The remaining 27 million has to be used for things like broadband, water lines, COVID, some kind of COVID problem, treatment, something to do with the economy related to COVID or drainage. Go down to the bottom. Right now, the way we're looking at it, based on the request, you would be $3,117,814 if you funded every request, and $2,149,598 short of this. So that means some of the things, and you can look right off, there's several things, need to be eliminated here and in the budget. You go up. One thing that's caused this to go over, that's happened recently, and I mentioned it, these COVID-19 salary supplements, as long as we justified them, all could count out of the $27 million. We didn't have to hit that. As of April 10th, and your budget's built with 50% going back to the budget. As of April 10th, the feds ended the actual COVID emergency, and then the way the documentation's always read, you could basically continue to pay these. They put out a Q&A recently that basically said once the emergency's over, you can no longer do COVID salary supplements. Well, versus suddenly the county having to come up with the money, what you can do, we can do retention supplements. But what that means on that is that everything after April 10th, which makes up that, has to come out of this $10 million. So what I've got over here is the last 25% of 2023, and then next year, all of, the first half of 24, if you continue to do this next half of 24.
So,
Does that make sense on this first item up here? These are actually paid. These are 23 and estimated half of 24. This is the amount that's gonna have to be counted towards your revenue replacement.
that makes sense, and that's assuming that next year it's burned totally off.
Right, if you completely burn it off next year, then go down here, Beth, and I can show them. Go on down there. We could, keep on going down, I've got it down here. Go over, because I've got calculations on this stupid thing. Down, keep going down, I've got those. Here we go. That's what I've got estimated, so if you're not gonna do any out of the COVID-19 24 next year, and you're gonna move it all to local, then we can delete that and take it off of there. If you make that decision now, I can delete it, it'll take it off your schedule.
Well,
and then we can
but
go
this
for-
coming year, I think we're still gonna, and this is why.
For the first half.
For the first half, like, I feel like.
Because if you do 50% next year, then you could do, well, you probably wouldn't do the rest of it next year, but you could do it for half the year, but then it's.
Yeah, that's.
And then deal with the full year of next year, which would be half and half.
That's right.
Cut it down.
So it'd be like down to a quarter.
So November next year, you come in and you say, we'll cover 50% of their budget. Well, the first of the half of the year, we paid out of COVID-19, the second half, we paid out of your regular.
Yeah.
And then next year, you just have to basically double the second half of it.
So, I mean, so what's happening here, just to, over the next 2 years, we're going to burn, we're trying to, at least what I'm positing, and we can, this gets into, our, whatever salary strategy we're gonna come up with, but at least what I would like to be able to do is maintain the, what was originally the hazard pay, and burn it off over the course of the next 2 years. So 50% this year, one half of it, you know, half the year, half, and then half what's left next year, and then it's gone, and then it's, so over the
Absorbing
next.
it into the regular budget.
So let's talk about this real quick, because it's important. Here's what's gonna save us, I think. This year, we've got $5 million of debt rolling off. Next year, we've got $10 million of debt rolling off. What that, if, to give us a little, I'm gonna be super conservative and assume no additional sales tax, no additional, you know, no change of wheel tax, nothing. And so like, that's probably overly conservative, right? But what that allows you is 100% overly conservative. But the idea here is that we should be able to grow at about 4% year over year for at least the next 4 years without any worry of a tax increase at all, and still be very, 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 have a good bit of cushion. Or touch reserves. So what that means.
Because of the reduction in.
Because the reduction in debt service. No, it's not reduction in debt service. We're actually gonna go up on debt service, but we will have paid off.
Paid, that's what I.
We will have paid off.
Your gross debt will go down each year. You got a bunch coming off this year, and on top of that, your payments are going down each year. You know, it goes down five this year, then 10 million for several years, but you know, we're talking 10 years out before
Right.
it's down again. So you're
But at
talking
that
about-
point, you're several years out at that point, so
You've got growth. Brother.
you will have growth at that point from other points. I mean, you're talking 4 years before we're gonna dip into
Right.
anything else.
At least 4 if you do it that way.
Right, so.
Without a tax increase.
Without a tax increase, that's the plan. I mean, that's
the only plan.
that's the
That means
trajectory here.
No new debt. That means you got to.
No new debt?
Handle the old courthouse without spending.
We can't take out any
$30
bonds.
doing it.
Nope.
We can't, you know, you know, and this is why I said you can have nice pretty buildings, or you can have sustainable salary increases, or you can have no tax increase, pick two.
Yeah.
So we're picking no tax increase, and we're picking sustainable salary increases. Sustainable, not necessarily 6%. And we're not getting nice new pretty buildings. Like that's the gist of this. That's the gist of the strategy here. So let's get back to the kind of specifics of this. So $4 million a year roughly to grow revolving. Now, what that means is that we'll be able to burn, we're going to use a good chunk of that over this year and next year to burn off the increase that came from the ARPA. So that's that 1.044 on the right. So we're going to need to take that. That puts us right over 1 million on estimated on the, we're about $1 million over on what we can use for revenue replacement, the 10 million. So we got to find $1.2 million worth of savings. And David, I think right off the bat,
Yes.
this $3.5 million for $3.4 million for the maintenance, how much is this really going to be?
I think if we do what I think we're gonna do, we're gonna create garages that can be, the climate can be controlled in them, the ambulances will be parked, that's really all they need over there at EMS. And that would be probably more like $1.5 million.
So we can take off $2 million. So let's call this 1.5. So this gives us 1.9.
Which one are you looking at?
The
Mike?
3.4 makes the 3 point.
Yeah.
Well, let's do two things. One, you got half of a PO, that 221 we've already paid, so you're gonna have to keep half of that. So you're wanting to add 1.1 plus what we've already spent on that?
No. I want to reduce the 3.4.
The 3.4,
We're gonna reduce that to 1.4.
line item
1.5.
15.
1.5.
Right, what I'm saying is, before we get that far, this line item right here, we've already spent 221,000, so.
On architecture.
I was around 182, 235, so do you want the total?
I've got it in my head.
182, 325 plus 1.1 remaining, is that what you want?
I can just share yours.
So my question is, this, we've spent 182, 325 already. out of this right here, change that to 182.
Yeah, let's do that.
That'll make it easier.
So we know what.
That's what we spend, that's why I had these two columns. So now we come over here, how much do you want for architectural and everything for the complete remodel of the maintenance now?
Only 1.5,
1.5 million there.
right?
Yep.
That's
Well, you're talking, maintenance,
Just make it 1.5.
yeah, I guess that was called the maintenance
Just the way you
building.
change it.
But
But
now
it's
it's gonna
not-
be ambulance
Well, whatever.
parking.
Correct, it's not what we're doing in
Right.
the TRC. That's
Yeah.
not,
Make
that's,
a plus and a plus over there.
that's different. Yeah, I know, that's
different.
But I thought they wanted 25 in total.
No, they want 1.5 for the new building, that's 182 for the old building. The old plans that we're not using.
We're just calculating.
Maybe when they come out.
That kind of keeps it separate for you. Now, the one above it, you've got the
1.8 million
EMS
dollars.
I mean,
building.
that's what
And
it has
we
to be
spent,
sometimes.
on this EMS building here, we've spent already, 113,575, so it can't go anywhere.
All right, I mean, that's,
Well, I can
Now it's-
find, I can find you a $500,000 real quick.
So on this right here, do you want to do one of those ones they requested?
Fort Sumner,
Yeah.
1 and 2.
yeah.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Oh, now let's talk about the EMS facility. If
Yeah,
the
we need to get into
EMS
that.
facility can be justified that it's COVID treatment.
That's right.
Then all or part of it can come from the regular, but if we can't, then it's got to also come from revenue replacement. It's based on how we can justify things. That one, if we put COVID treatment station, decontam and to contain the materials, we can send it down to see if we can get it justified. Because we want to do our plan and then we'll send it to the consultants, we'll justify them. If they say it's not justified, after we set the budget, we can go ahead and rework the stuff.
Are you talking about the 3 EMS buildings that they asked for?
Right, they asked for 3. If you put one of those up here,
So
we
there,
can try
there
to
is,
justify.
there is the
See,
one.
I don't know, what is this, the three, this is the first time I heard about 3 new EMS.
There was 3 stations, one of them was going
They
to
asked for
require
a capital.
nine ambulances in White House. But the problem in White House.
So that's a
you have-
brand new one, you gotta have,
Right,
that's
the
right,
problem
3
in White House
staffs.
is the people is it Robertson County? Robertson County's response time is much slower than Sumner. So
So-
you've got the situation where, you guys fund a lot of additional extra money into your EMS to make it fast. Robertson County, not so much.
So
So
it,
they're not getting that
the
benefit.
question is, here's the issue, and you can make, to be fair, if you're in White House or in that part of the county, I think they said the response time was between 18 and 20 minutes, and the rest of the county, they hit 10. And so the argument is that area is underserved because they don't have, and they're paying taxes. But here's the other part of it. If we were to build that, we would have to put
9 ambulances.
nine employees. You have to put a full crew there.
And then utilities also.
And, and look, so I asked the question, are we always getting under the golden hour every single time? Yes. We're still hitting, the golden hour is from the point of injury to when you get a level 2 care, I think, level 2 or level 3, whatever, a hospital, you need to be there in an hour. And we're hitting 40 minutes even in that case. Check with them. I don't want to speak for them, but that was a
I
discussion
think
we
that's
had.
what he'd say. That was
He said, so yes, are they
Not
getting
ideal,
as good a
but-
service? No, but are they still getting sufficient service to, how much,
It's not as good as Sumner's, but it's still acceptable. Is kind of what we're.
that's what we came to. But when it comes to, there's also kind of a bang for your buck thing going on there. Which one of the one they were talking about at the airport?
But are they the same cost? Like I think they're 1.8.
Well, there was one of them, what was it, number 7?
Yeah, it's up in
They're on the
Westmoreland
one-
and Southeast.
Yeah,
The
so,
EMS under capital, the buildings. I think they were about 1.8 each.
so they were just about that. But David, the one that we were talking about, that, I think it was Westmoreland, was that right?
Not quite that much clearer.
That one is, there's land for it. To build a new one in White House, we're starting from zero, from absolute scratch. And like we said, there would be a new team. The one in Westmoreland, I think.
Is it Oak Grove or you?
No.
No.
No. There's one they're operating basically out of a house, like an old 1-bedroom house.
It's the one that Daryl gave the presentation on.
Yeah,
The EMS
so-
committee, and it didn't have any decontainment, so I was
So
wondering-
this is one that there is something of a plan that EMS has had a conversation with Resource Authority, that they could potentially put one there, and there was an estimate, I think 1.5 or 1.7 million.
Here's the cost. The 2 that already had land were $1,540,000 each. And over in our long-term plans, We got those, we can unfold those and show you the.
Well, right, but there's also no addition for, the crew's already there.
Right,
So
the crew's there
So
now.
that one to me
There's
was like,
property also.
that one to me is like a true one-time thing, right?
Correct.
Because you're building a building, you're
You're
taking
not
all the
adding maintenance
maintenance,
of effort,
you know,
yeah.
all of that's moving over here. Well, because,
I think Darryl had a question.
go ahead.
Are you talking about the Oak Grove station and West Warren? That's combined in two stations. And I don't
No, just one. I'm not talking about.
He requested 2 stations.
He requested a total of 3.
Three
Well,
stations.
he's got 2. He only.
Well, he
Well,
started with 3 and
requested
then I
3
think
in his
he,
presentation.
Yeah, he only requested 2 from us. but
when we were
wanted
talking,
to
he
add
knew we
third
weren't
on
gonna get.
He did.
Yeah, so then now we're
But
going
let
down,
me
whittling
ask
down the
you
line.
the
Where's
logistical
the
question.
for
Yeah,
station
that's, I'm
7?
with you, I'm confused, Daryl.
Where's the resource land for station 7?
So what did he say?
Now, Station 7's the one that we were looking at, Toby's land,
Oh, so,
maybe work with
Highway.
him.
yeah, that's right, it was
Yeah,
not Resource
and-
Authority.
right.
Sorry. My bad.
But
But
let me,
looking in that area.
let's talk, if you're gonna do one to the same price, why don't we, just for time, delete the 1540 out here and move 1540 over into the ARPA sheet right now?
Yeah, I mean, so
Where
bottom
that other
line,
one's at, that gets 1 over there.
bottom line, he's requesting 3, we're looking for, he requested 3 for capital. We're saying, hey, we'll consider 1 from ARPA, because we've saved so much on the
Yeah, that's
maintenance.
right.
I was just confused on the
Yeah,
resource
no,
authority.
no,
That would be combined as.
Yeah, I
one,
spoke, I
we
spoke
don't
wrong.
do that.
No, I spoke wrong.
And when he was talking about the
So,
We
COVID
think that's probably
decontainment,
not gonna have to come.
Would-
Now, the
could we
question is, are they
also
gonna make
Yes.
it?
do a
Yes,
decontainment
yes,
that
yes.
included
We can try to
COVID for
make
that
it-
Yes,
station?
that's the idea.
Yeah,
Non-revenue.
you have to have a storage
You got it.
Eligible.
You got it.
Eligible gonna be-
So that way we
I'm with
can,
you.
that way it comes from the
Decontamination of
30.
storage area.
Now, I got another question I wanna ask.
I mean,
about this ARPA.
Okay.
I'd want to pull it out.
Well, the question is, are you
27.
guys gonna wanna try to make it a?
Yes. The
Decontaminant?
yes.
And
We're
then the
just-
other question is, these have not been through Gen Ops, so the same discussion on, do we wanna run a bunch of that through May to go ahead and try to, especially on the ARPA, because time's running out.
We've already done May. We've passed.
I'm sorry, June, well.
I mean, the clock's ticking on this stuff, so at some point.
Well, which one are we talking about?
We still got
We're talking about building one EMS facility
December 24. I think.
with a decontamination station on it,
Where?
on some.
It's, yeah, in the Westmoreland area, we have to work on the exact location, because we've got to talk to Toby about
A
it.
year and a half.
Okay, so we don't have that.
We do not have an exact location.
But we've got an idea, and at the end of the day, this is money we need to turn and burn. It can't just spend, because that money's gonna go away.
Okay.
So this,
The money has to be committed December
where's this
31st,
ambulance station that we're talking about?
That's right, but we've gotta, I mean, you need plans, we need all of that, we need it buttoned up.
Yeah, that's what
Right,
they-
because it's got to be done by 2026.
That's right,
Completed.
that's right. So, that's
Highway
it.
owns the land.
Some of that.
The plan is in place by
Okay.
24, spent
They
by
own
already-
26.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Maybe you gotta have your.
David, I want to ask a question about the broadband and the water lines.
Those were approved by the former commission. Right now, my understanding from Mr.
So we got a year and a half to.
on the water line,
Lined
it's
up.
down, where do I have those notes at?
Yeah,
It's over here.
Where we can drop that.
They're wanting to use like
Where we can
900,000
drop
of them as a match. You'll have it here or not?
Um,
It's over in that adjustment sheet. No, it's over in the adjustment sheet.
But those numbers could be played with a little bit.
Yeah, you could move them up or down, but the 5 million, there was a discussion with, the provider, John knows about it, for the
Yeah.
broadband.
Yeah, I know.
So I
about
think
it
there's
too.
kind of an agreement on the way for the 5 million on the broadband, if not already entered into.
Yeah, it's just waiting for final approval.
can we go ahead and just free up $510,000
Yeah,
right now?
Let's just give her the forward.
Forward Sumner, we've
So,
already voted it
before
down
y'all, we did
twice.
vote it down, but I mean, we end up with everything else. I mean, here's what happened. Facebook paid for a lot of this, and they stamped their name on it.
Well, let's think, go back where he's at,
Have
let's
we
answer his
received
question.
money from Facebook yet?
No.
No, we're not gonna take another year's worth.
That's why it's zero.
Right here's what we're looking, out of that amount, we think right now there's federal funding of 6.7 some odd million, and out of that 10 million, what 994 is gonna be used for matching.
For like,
For the water line, he was asking about the water line,
this is kind of like for Mo.
Is that in
looking
Beth's
for
page?
Grant, state grants or just
Is that coming from?
CDBG grants or whatever? I mean, this-
County, Portland, and Westmoreland.
Right. They've got a grant together, they're going to be out, there's these, out of that 10 million ARPA, 994,061, and 6 million more of federal money that we'll receive to do it. And what they want us to do is flow through us. Basically, the utility district will be doing it, they flow through us to do it.
I didn't quite understand the scope of that when that was coming through. Is that just for development? I mean, is that really truly bringing water lines to underserved areas of like Westmoreland, like Mo was fighting?
My understanding was water lines, and is it going to budget money?
Is this the water tanks to build a pressure on Bethpage?
No. This is a master plan with White House utility, Portland.
We don't group everything.
It's really for growth and for development. It's not, in my mind, it's not for what Mo has fought for, as far as like water lines for underserved areas of Westmoreland. The people who truly have wells that are spoiled, they're getting their water out of a creek. I mean, this is,
I mean, here,
That's
so
what-
let me pull this back real quick. Like,
John
just,
may have more details on this.
so quick note here on just the water line and a lot of these. Like, look, if we want to start cutting, I'm all about it. We've already done a lot of cutting, which we clearly needed to because we've got a lot of options. But the clock is ticking on this stuff,
Right.
and so already, you know, there is discussion I've heard at the federal level of starting to claw this stuff back. So like, and I know that I've heard, you know, that's not actually going to happen, but
They don't think so.
nevertheless, like the clock is ticking on this. So like, if we're gonna, you know,
We need to get contracts. laid out.
we need to start moving on some of it.
John, you know more details about the water line grant from Miss Northway. She gave me the information.
We're gonna lose it.
Somebody else.
Pardon me?
I got it just recently. This one right here, she made a request to add this in, this, I don't know, the last couple of days.
I
$6
can't-
million,
I can't see.
52,738 federal funding for that, that's the match from ARPA. I just received it like a day or so ago.
Who's the managing utility?
White House.
White House.
Yeah, I'd have to get the background on that. I did not
we need
see it.
another presentation because it wasn't very thoroughly explained and it wasn't,
I'd like that.
I think it's completely changed.
well, we need to, that's one I think we need to revisit, in my opinion, on behalf of Mo.
So what's the possibility that we're gonna cut the water lines up there or reduce that funding for it?
Well, the CEMC, I think they.
Well,
Let's try to
yeah,
figure out
no.
what it's for.
Can I address
No,
this?
not
Because I
that.
just talked to Mike Callis this morning. He's kind of been heading up this water project, this regional water project with TDEC. And there's a couple of different scenarios that it doesn't look like this thing's gonna work. But one can, which would be running, upgrading a line through Mount Vernon Road, which would get water to Westmoreland, which is kind of what I'm interested in, because broadband, yes, broadband can be life-changing, but it doesn't do any good if you don't have water. They got to have water up there.
Do you know if it's part of this grant right
So,
here?
well, yeah, it could be, and am I 100% sure? No. What I'm thinking is, I think you could reduce some of that broadband money and drop it in the water bucket.
But has any of this, but I mean, I'm gonna ask them, I guess, the same question, like, has any of this been spent? Are they just gonna sit on it?
No.
There was,
No, none of it's been
see.
spent.
Well, no, but I
can tell you
mean,
what I know.
are there plans with it? I mean,
So I'm talking with Cumberland Connect now. What the $5 million does is speeds up the project for broadband in the northern part of the county.
okay.
So
When we say speeds
I-
up, what is it?
speeds up the
Put you on the
installation
front
process.
versus the-
Yes.
So, what I think is better, in my opinion, is that we take some of that and dedicate it to water. I think water, Westmoreland, Portland, all that northern region is more important than broadband. They need broadband, but we have an opportunity to get water up there, and I would much rather do that before.
It
So
would be
what's-
coming out of Cumberland.
So I'm thinking we talk to CMC, or Cumberland Connect, CMC, and dedicate $2.5 million to helping them on that project, and then dedicate the rest to the water.
So, all right, so assume that happens. I mean, at this point, we're just moving money here for ourselves, like, the
Right.
money still has to be appropriated, you know, so that means that
Restricted.
it has to be, I'm assuming, more than just, is this just means it's gonna be sitting in a bank allocated to them, and then they will need to have spent it.
Right.
By the, I mean, are they gonna be able to
And
spend?
yes.
We need
Yes,
contracts in.
Are they gonna be able, because I mean, at some point, like, I
Yes,
almost
they
wanna
will
start
have-
tracking.
They will have had
Yeah,
to spend.
because they
Well,
do.
right, but I mean, are we gonna get a project report or like a monthly report or
Right now-
something?
Right
Tell me
now,
what
the
you want.
contracts we have require, or they have required language about spending it in there, and that may be something, you may put some language.
I just
in
don't
there
wanna
about spending it
accidentally
first.
lose this because they're going slow.
Is this Castilian Springs Beth?
No, they're
Page
not
Water
going
Utility
slow, they're
District?
moving
Well,
right along,
no.
they're on a 5-year plan, they're in year 3. What this could do is probably get them through in about 4 to 4.5 years.
And so we're working.
Okay.
Basically, it just speeds up the.
It just speeds it up.
I was in the
But it doesn't,
original
it doesn't do any good to have broadband if you ain't got water.
I was in the original meeting about 2 years ago.
That's my part.
And- and that was
I
the
mean,
discussion.
broadband's life changing,
Oh, the fourth.
water's life.
I know y'all trying to, y'all can get
Yeah. And the price, the original plan was to go through White House Utility District, and that price went from about 10 million to about 83 million. Yeah, so now this can come directly out of Cumberland. And I literally, this information is, 8 hours
Hey,
old.
Matt,
I talked to him
you guys
7
want
o'clock.
to have
No, we need- they need
broadband
more.
water?
They need.
I don't know that we've got it. I don't-
And if you wanna get growth.
We don't have to do it right now.
Like the southern part of the
If
county,
you're gonna change.
that's the only
rate,
land that's
you have to
available.
do it.
Like,
I mean, we said we were gonna try to tackle ARPA, so,
Well, I mean, but we don't even know how much water's cost. I mean,
yeah, we don't know.
We're just
Bowling
guessing.
Green,
We don't
as
have-
opposed to
I feel like we're throwing spaghetti in
constantly
it.
flowing
I
down
would
the
You're not gonna appropriate all your
on
ARPA,
the budget
appropriate
committee,
July.
but this talk it affects a large part of the eastern side of my district. I really wouldn't like to touch this money, the water line money, until we know for sure where it's going. Because I'm afraid that's what's gonna happen, these water lines are gonna get up through there, and then here comes developers, and we've lost our rural area of the county, what little bit we have left.
Yep.
So my thinking is we really need to know the scope, because I've heard talks of a huge water line coming from the Cumberland River, running up Highway 31 and feeding into Westmoreland. I've heard talks of water coming out of Trousdale County, coming across Macon County, feeding over into that side of the county in the Westmoreland area.
a big storage tank.
And
up
now
there.
we've got talks of Cascade Springs is gonna add a 3 million gallon tank, and that's gonna add all kinds of water pressure, and they're gonna pull it out of the creek at the bottom of the hill. So there's all kinds of moving parts and cogs and wheels in this area, and that's for a reason.
Castaic haven't even started their engineering plan yet, they'll never get it done.
Somebody sees the dollar
Can we get,
signs in that area
bottom
and
line on
green
this,
grass.
before we make,
And
we
I
need
don't want-
a plan.
I know.
We just
I
need to
don't
see.
think we're moving anything today.
Yeah,
We need to reinstitute.
leave that alone.
It's time for a water line ad hoc to come back.
So you guys.
We're gonna be a
want to
county on
take
the rise if
these
we're
more
not careful.
consideration?
to do the water
Yeah, what time is it?
It's 4:25.
All right, so
You
we,
guys wanna make these pink for more discussion tomorrow?
yeah, so let's do this. We're at almost 4:30. Let's
We've had multiple meetings.
leave those alone. We made the change. We took care of highway. Let's just sit this.
Go on down and see what we're looking at, right? That just gives some idea. You really need to cut about $1 million right now. And
Do
you
you
got these
have
bonds.
consultant fees left?
Yeah, we use those for, we're
They all
gonna do.
use them.
So we need to cut $1 million, we need to cut $1 million from the 32?
Unless you're
Or
gonna not do sub-recipient bonding.
where do we need to cut the million from the
We have like $1
10?
million because of sub-recipient bonding.
David, where do we need to cut the million from?
So we got hold
What are you
it.
talking about?
Where do we need to cut the million from?
You've got a couple, that you've discussed on moving the Ford Sumner stuff. haven't
We
you?
just did.
Oh, okay.
We
go
gave
on.
510.
You've got, go on down here. This one right here, they're
Yes.
asking for the alert, but that's something we only pay 32% of.
I'm gonna go to 0 as my motion
Which is it?
because
For what?
the alert system, because the cities are refusing to pay and want us to do it, and they can get grant money for it, and that disturbed me.
So do you want to delete that?
I don't know that we.
What about those roads?
Whoa, before we do that, though, that actually at least has something.
No, it's, we only do 32% of that, but the cities want us to pay 100% of that burden.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so at least they have
it back. Well, it puts where everybody's
The
on
thing is
equal
about
footing, or we can just fund our 32%.
Well, no, I get that.
And then they do the rest of the grant, but they're gonna do the grants, but the point is,
I'm just saying that, like.
Then you have those roads.
she said she was, yeah, they were pretty sure, that was why I was asking those questions, because they're pretty sure they can get all that money through grants, that 300.
Why are we doing this?
That's why that's my
Can we
point.
just eliminate it?
That's what I wanted to do.
Well, it makes sense. They can get it through grant money.
Remove 500,000, remove 500,000.
I'm still for the 316.
Well, no, we can come back to that.
I don't wanna leave it.
To get to that million, like, we've now, I mean, we can get it.
Well, if they can.
Well, I'm trying to capture as much as possible.
But what else are we gonna spend on? This is everything everybody has.
The old courthouse needs something.
Well, that's up there.
Gallatin Library is gonna need more carpet
Remodel
than
all the courthouse.
$1,500, I know
Yeah,
that.
I think these little tiny things aren't really what we work all year.
Oh, why are you gonna do one of those
Because of the.
No, I'm not talking about quarters, I'm talking about gallons,
Yeah,
carpet.
it's-
Are we good now?
75,000.
No, we'll have to-
Yeah, if it was me, I would eliminate every one of these because they're so small.
They said it's small.
Okay,
I mean, they can
yeah.
ask for that out of the regular budget or something, but I would probably eliminate that, and that just because of the size.
Which ones?
The
small one, the
1,500,
little bitty ones.
2,500, the 6,043, I just.
Yeah, we've already fixed the
Yeah.
carpet to 1,500.
Okay, that's done,
I've
okay.
already done,
Downstairs carpet.
well,
Isn't it?
no, that 1,500 was what was the shortage that they had.
For the
And I
upstairs.
covered that shortage for the upstairs. Downstairs, we didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
Well, that's, we need to talk about that one.
And then what, 6043?
So here's,
Now you should be positive, we can delete on that.
I thought he asked for that in his budget.
He did.
I think you did.
He did, I know he
I think
did.
it's twice.
let's take it out, man.
Delete that, and then come down here and you should be
Double
positive.
Cause he said he was gonna do it when they moved to the courthouse.
Okay.
There you go.
So, can we scroll back up? I want to talk about the ECC alert system, but here's the deal, she gave her presentation. The cities are not willing to put any money into that, and we're only 32%, is that what we are covering that?
32, yeah.
So, at a minimum, I would cover 32%, but she indicated that she can get 100% of that from grants, or like, so,
Well, she let her come back.
Possibly.
We can
Possibly.
put a third of it in there, put like one,
well, what is we 32% of?
Yeah, 105.
Of our cost,
it's 104.
sharing as a county.
But she said the cities wasn't willing to cover it, so it's kind of.
Who is
Or 104.
Did they say that?
Yeah,
Yes.
she
Yeah.
says.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
I don't
She was
remember
lady
that
came up.
conversation.
Yeah.
she said it, I mean,
Okay.
today.
Because we pressed
How
on
much
it.
did we remove?
It should be the same as that, the 101. It should be the 101.92.
Yeah, but what's the
That's not
difference?
If we get the whole thing through grant money, why
What
would,
is that, 360?
So-
357?
why don't we just put it at zero if they can get the whole thing through grant?
Well, we don't know what they can get. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. She said we may be able to.
That's all. You can't do that.
And I'd almost leave it like it is.
I mean, but part of me is like,
Until we
look, what are we
figure out
gonna,
another
what are we
answer.
gonna, I mean, we can leave it at 100, doesn't matter. It's so little.
Yeah.
It's fine.
What do you got?
What's in the formula?
What do you got trying to do as well?
But can that go to the
He said to put 38%.
because that's our coverage of that, not the full amount. They were wanting us to pay the full
Hit
amount.
plus and delete.
Can you, but can that go to the, that revenue replacement? Can you use that 300,000 over there? Or we just can't?
No, because it's 10 million inside the country.
Okay, so we're just
Yeah, out of
counting.
your total,
I got it.
37 on 10 million.
Yeah.
So now, are we good here? It looks
You're
like-
actually,
well-
you're actually under allocated.
Yeah, so we're good.
We'll have to go back and put it on the budget.
And I mean, at some point, we wanna spend this, because otherwise we lose it.
Correct, but I mean, but we just gained $700,000.
Yeah, no,
from the
I'm
right
not,
column.
no, I'm not hating on it, I'm just
So
like,
we got 793 right there that we didn't have a minute.
David asked about Oak Grove,
Yeah, are you guys gonna do that?
and I need to ask a basic question here. Do we pay for volunteer fire department, infrastructure, or don't we?
Only as
Generally, no.
donations.
Generally, no.
so,
Now, we do have the one that they're using over there, what's the name?
Jackal Island,
Jackal
pay for
Island.
that.
But they don't own that, it's a county
Right.
building, and they use it. And there's a bit, and I think it's a utility over there too.
Do we own
Question is,
the
you
Oak
guys
Grove
pay
building and the property?
utilities on all these buildings. They're share, but they don't pay anyone to share.
My understanding is Shackle Island pays
thought we
utilities,
leased
they
it.
pay all of it. Is that what my understanding was?
You may be right.
Ask Terry.
Now, the
Terry,
EM
she's on resource.
Shackle Island does pay the utilities, because there's been a discussion about EMS paying part of those.
Tell what I remember.
And EMS hasn't paid any of them. So Shackle Island has been paying for all the utilities in their building.
so what,
And
what's
with
the,
their donation.
time out, what's the point of the question? Are we
Well,
just-
the question is, there's actually two questions involved in my line of thinking. Number one, do we build infrastructure for volunteer fire departments? Because I've heard dissenting opinions on that. Number two, he still has the same size facility up there as every other volunteer fire department I have seen in the entire county, and he wants double. He's got 3 bay doors right now, and he wants 6. Custodians,
Grove?
yeah, at Oak Grove.
They
He's got 3 right now.
doesn't it?
No, he's
Because they
got
took
an
one.
ambulance and 2 pump trucks parked inside. And he insists he needs 3 more, for a weed truck and for his 2, tankers. And so and I'm just wondering, why does Custodian Springs only have 3? Bethpage only has 3. Shackle Island only has 3, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, what up there in Oak
What's
Grove
special?
would necessitate double the infrastructure?
See, here's, when you're asking if you should build the infrastructure, here's a couple of questions. The first is the tax issue. The cities pay taxes for the fire departments, and then you're taxing the cities for county fire departments, so there's a question of taxation. The second, if you're building their building and you're their primary revenue source, the question is, are you gonna have the liability of that?
That's the
Are
question that
you-
worries me about
If
that.
they have a wreck, their first argument's gonna be that basically they're an extension of this county if they're a primary revenue source.
And that leads us down the path of
Are
having
they gonna
fire
be
districts
successful?
and
I don't
all
know.
this
Keith
stuff
might
that,
have a better feeling.
This is why,
So there's an argument.
Okay, I
That's
didn't
gonna be a
know
big
that.
problem in the
this is,
legality.
I'm saying, this is why I voted against them taking pennies out of the tax rate last summer to fund that $1.2 million for capital project improvement needs for the volunteer fire, because what that is to me was setting up the foundation for fire tax in creating a county fire department and as far as a new government entity. And the problem with that is in the way it's been explained to me, once you start funding one to one level, then you gotta start funding the other ones at the
That's
same
right.
level, and then you
and
start.
at that point, you're a county fire department.
Correct, and that's where you get into the problem. So it's like, so the state allows through charitable contributions to give to the volunteer fire, just like we do to Ashley's Place. I mean, it's just,
As long as somebody doesn't argue the point that you're taxing them with no benefits. They allow you to do nonprofit donations, but the question is, if somebody comes and makes a strong argument that you're taxing them for that fire department, they receive
So you're
no
saying
benefits, because I live in the city and pay taxes, then you're gonna have an issue. That's the issue, you're gonna have to defend that, will you be successful? I don't know.
the county's been doing it for how many
Right, but
decades?
it's not been large enough that anybody's came up with it.
I mean, and you start doing this, and that'll, because exactly what you just said will happen. Because they're saying, well, I want 3.
But then my point was,
I want 3 more bays.
that's why I voted against it in the budget
No, I-
last year, because that's exactly what it was.
No, I get it.
The fire districts is there's no large taxable properties in the rural areas and they're spread out. So if you're gonna cover a fire department, you're gonna tax that area only, so you're looking at quite a substantial increase on the rural areas.
At
So-
least 50
Like
cents.
where my
tax
area's at,
rate
it
or
would be
more.
huge because we're fairly dense, but when you move out where there's really low density per mile.
Then
you're gonna
those
have-
guys are gonna get crushed.
And on top, they have a bunch of them that's on
So-
the green belt.
Well, let's-
so they'll be
I mean, just
taxed.
look at
So, I mean, it sounds to me like we need to kill this. That's what it sounds to me
Here comes the
like.
question is what is the money that the county commission approved last year? I know this is not a part of ARPA, like that's left over, the 765.
It sounds to me like we need to kill all of it. I mean, let's just because I don't want to go down a total, like a rabbit hole here, because that's another discussion, but like.
It's setting the precedent for creating
right.
a county fire tax district, and that's exactly
Let's
what that
answer
is.
this question on last year's. We've estimated the budget you spent on it, so it's coming out of your unassigned fund balance. So what that actually does is give you guys the next year to decide what you want to do. If you
But that's a
decide you
separate-
want to do it,
With that
then you can take it out of
765.
fund balance with what's left next
With
year.
that
If you
765.
decide not to.
That's a
just
good-
leave it
that's a
where
good
you are.
point.
By the way, we've got the budget set, you can let this ride to next year. and
So,
it won't be affected.
So
I
we're
think,
okay with right now.
so I think what we've got here, so we've gone through, I'm just trying to get us to a closing point. We've got, no, well, before we do motion to adjourn here, we took care of ARPA, we're under. I think, I don't wanna dictate this, I think that the logic is that we should not fund that, both because why do it from an operational point of view, and also because it moves us further down this path that we don't know that we wanna walk. And we also, tomorrow or at some point in the future, need to discuss the existing allocation toward the,
That's what we were just talking
Yeah.
about.
Well, here's
So-
where we're at on that, let me kind of clarify. We showed in the budget that you spent all that. So what that does is decrease your estimated any fund balance. So you won't have to spend it to the rest of the year, so July and after, when you have time to think about it, determine as a body what you want to do, you've got one or two choices. You go back and increase your estimated beginning fund balance and appropriate it again, or you just leave it in your fund balance and let it cover something else in the future. So it gives you time to do it July, August, and you won't have to deal with this budget cycle right now.
90% of all 911 calls are medically related. not fire, that's why fire department's going from fire to fire and rescue, so it's like, if we can capture that money, if there's stuff that you can put towards an EMS station, or can it go towards capital, like ambulances?
Well, we almost have enough for another EMS station now.
Well, that's what I'm
I
looking,
mean-
I'm trying to think, like, what's the need EMS medically wise, and recapture that.
Yeah.
If we're gonna spend it, if we can boost it up towards those 2 stations.
Or leave it in a rainy day fund to give away a tax increase even longer before you have to do it.
Well,
Well, I'm
that's
talking
true.
about the
The
ARPA.
more money.
No,
I'm
but
talking
he's
about-
saying he could use
I'm talking
it.
about the fire department
76.
money that stays in there. If it goes in the unassigned fund balance, the larger you build that fund balance, the longer you can go without having to worry about inflation and other issues. Is my
Of what
point,
we've
the
already
larger your
done.
fund balance, the longer
Sounds
the cushion you're better. That fund balance was $50 million versus 35, the longer you guys have to deal with any problems.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks like a big fund balance is bad, it's actually the opposite of that. You just gotta fight the temptation to spend it.
Oh, well, this group will find
Force
that.
You're not gonna have any problem
And
here.
when the problems, when
This group is finding the
sets in,
temptation to spend stuff we need to
when
spend.
inflation sets in,
How long can we save the money?
well, when inflation really sets in and stuff, and you have to deal with something large, it gives you time to think how you're gonna deal with it.
Yeah, which look, I mean, I'm making a joke here, but we actually did a really good job with this, right? Like, we pushed this around and we're gonna get an EMS station out of it, which we need, and maybe two.
Maybe, we're trying to
As
squeeze in
opposed
how
to
much
stuff
we-
that we didn't really need. But with that in mind, do we need to continue here? I think we got this fixed, we
Now, we
got
need to
Toby
get it
fixed.
over to our consultants to try to justify some of these over in that, right, that's all
All right.
we're gonna do right now.
So we
There's
just
one more
increase that
motion.
on the right.
Sure.
Second. All
All
right.
say aye.
Aye, there we go. Thank you, everybody. Can you hit that?
That's a lot easier, earlier.